Hi guys, well a couple of weeks ago Be Quiet officially announced another case within the Pure Bass series. So today we're going to be checking it out. This here is the Pure Bass 500. The motivation behind the design of this case here is that it is a compact mid-tower which caters for the ATX form factor, and of course since it is a Pure Bass it will target those on a tighter budget. Within Pure Bass 500 you're going to see the usual selection of features, though there is a particular focus on keeping those noise levels down as much as possible. We have noise damping material on all major panels. Now this model that we're taking a look at today is the black version, and this one is without the window. And so just to be clear, there are three different colours: black, white and metallic grey, and then within each colour we've got window and a non-windowed version. And so just to kind of make it a little bit clearer for you guys, I will pop the pricing on the screen. So this non-windowed version here is the cheapest in the range, and so it will be interesting to see what we get for our money. The balance of features and build quality on these Pure Bass cases is usually pretty good. And so let's jump in and check it out. Before we get into our review, today's video is brought to you by Stormforce and their Onyx GTX 1660 Ti Ryzen 5 3600. This is a pre-built system which comes in at under £1,000. We recently tested out this unit, and not only does it offer great performance from current gen AMD hardware, but it provides you great value for money if you're wanting to jump into 1080p gaming with Nvidia's GTX 1660 Ti. Stormforce also give you a 3-year collect, repair and return warranty on their systems. For more info on this, be sure to check out the link in the description. Okay, so let's start at the front of Pure Bass 500. So on the front section we've got this plastic panel which has that brushed metal effect. Due to this panel being closed off, we have some ventilation down the sides and underneath. It is possible to remove this cover. All you got to do is give it a strong pull from the underside. You can see the inside of that panel has the noise damping material, and that isn't just your cheap stick-on piece of foam. And so after removing that, you can see there is a Silent Wings 2 140mm fan that is positioned at the front as an intake. And at the front here we can install 3 120 or 2 140mm fans. Now the front panel connectivity sits in the usual spot at the top, and that consists of a power button, 2 USB 3 ports and a headphone and microphone jack. It is nice there to see that they have opted for black ports on this case, which complements the overall look and styling. Up at the top of Pure Bass 500 we have a magnetic plastic cover. You can see towards the back that cover has a small section of ventilation to help with the airflow. And if we take this cover off, you can see on the inside we've got that noise damping material again. Now Be Quiet includes another panel which can be switched over. This is heavily ventilated and will obviously focus on increasing the airflow even more. That is again magnetic. Underneath that panel we have the allocation for installing 2 140 or 2 120mm fans. Okay, so for the side panels on this version of the case there are no significant features. They're just solid steel panels with thumb screws for easy removal. On the inside of each of these panels we get a nice thick sheet of noise reduction material which will help with the insulation. With those panels removed, we now have a view inside Pure Bass 500, and as you can see this case here follows the standard layout for a computer case. It accommodates up to the ATX form factor, and around the case we've got these storage options for different sized drives, and a slightly different take on cable management, which we're now going to take a look at in more detail. Now the power supply sits at the bottom of the chassis and it is concealed behind this shroud on the prominent side, and the dimensions on this case mean that you can't install it on the other side either, and so it is necessary to attach the PSU from the back side using the provided plate. Underneath the power supply there is a detachable dust filter, but this is accessible from the front of the case, which is actually a better method since we don't have to move the tower around in order to remove it. Above the power supply we have a series of 7 horizontal PCI covers. Each of those covers have the ventilation cutouts and the thumb screws. We're glad to see that Be Quiet has included another Silent Wings 2 140mm fan as a rear exhaust. Quite a few manufacturers recently have been omitting such a feature, and so this with the front fan will give us that push-pull that generally yields good results. If we move into the other side of PureBase 500, we have the storage options. And so at the bottom of the case, there is a cage which is hidden, and this needs to be taken out in order to install a drive. Inside this cage, we can either install an SSD at the bottom, or we can install two 3.5-inch drives. What you gotta do is line up the drive and attach the screws. And then for the SSDs, we've got this bracket which sits over the back of the motherboard tray, and this can take two drives. Screws just need to be attached to the underside. And then we've got another two positions on that cable management panel, and so quite a lot of flexibility for different types of storage. Next up, let's check out the clearance options within our new case, as this will give you an idea if kit will fit. And so for the CPU cooler, we have up to 190mm, which is a huge amount of space, and you can see our Hyper 212 clearly fits in there, no problem whatsoever. In the graphics card department, there are no problems either. We have up to 370. Most, if not all, high-performance GPUs like this RTX 2070 will fit in here without any issues. Behind the board is the spot which is important for feeding cables. We have up to 2 centimeters to play with, that you will need to factor in the insulation material. Be Quiet has included a handy cable management bracket which you saw earlier when we looked at the storage. This is a neat way of hiding the cables. You will need to feed those through with the bracket detached, since the connectors can be tricky to pass through. There is also the opportunity to customize that badge on this bracket, as it can be clipped in and out. And for water cooling, there is space and allocation for a 240 up at the top of the case, and then at the front we can go up to 360mm, but you will need to remove that hard drive cage to cater for that. And so this case is flexible for different types of cooling, even if you want to go with liquid. Okay, well that completes our look at the PureBase 500, and I have to say I am very impressed. If you're a subscriber to the channel, you'll know that we recently had a look at two cases which are in a very similar price bracket to this, but due to them focusing so much on RGB and RGB fans, there are compromises. The Phanteks P400A build quality is way below par, but with this PureBase 500 they pretty much nailed everything. Now we don't have the glass, the windowed version, which is an additional $10, £10, but the build quality on this is what I would class as exceptional at this price point. And then we get on to the features. Every panel has noise damping material, and we have the interchangeable cover at the top, and so you can choose between low noise or increased airflow. And with that plastic cover, which is on by default, it is partly ventilated anyway, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. And even though it is pretty compact in there, we can still drop in high performance kit, big coolers, large graphics cards, and all the storage. I think it is a great idea to offer so many different versions of this case too. Be Quiet are obviously pretty confident that it will do well by the fact that they're going down that particular route. But what do you guys think of this new case? Just drop your vote in the top right corner. Feel free to also drop a comment below, or if you've got any questions about this case, I'll do my best to get back to you. Now, this case is obviously pretty good for low noise, but what about the cooling performance? Well, we're going to be testing that out in our full review on vortex.net, so be sure to head on over to that link. It's going to be on the screen and in the description. Now, if this is the first time that you've stumbled across our videos, would be grateful if you could subscribe to the channel. Make sure that bell notification is also enabled so you don't miss out on any of our future content. Thanks very much for watching today, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys soon.